Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Hello, everyone. I'm here today with David Bryan, the owner of Blackdog Builders in Salem, New Hampshire. David does design, build, remodelings, but he's got multiple different divisions of his company and is going to tell us a lot about that today. I'm excited to have you on, David. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Eric. Thanks very much. How are you?
Doing great. So why don't you give us a little background? I mean, how did you how'd you get into construction, and how'd you end up starting your company, and give us the full background there.
Yeah, sure. So I went to college, got a degree in business, which didn't prepare me at all for running my own company. And so 6 months after I got out of college, I didn't have the job that I really wanted. I was doing consulting for a company in Boston, and I hated it. And so decided to just kind of strike out on my own with a lot of enthusiasm and way too little knowledge, right? And my first company actually went out of business in 18 months. We managed to lose $60,000 on about $120,000 of sales, right?
Oh, wow.
And so it was a very painful lesson. And when we restarted, my wife and I said, okay, no more we had a partner at that point in time, and it didn't go well. We didn't go bankrupt or anything like that. We just closed the operation and settled our debts, but it was an ugly learning experience. And my wife and I at that point in time said, okay, there's two options. One is I go back to school and get a degree in law, and I become a lawyer, which I think I would have hated if I had done that. And the other option was that year was the first year that the Remodeler show happened, and it was in Baltimore, Maryland at that point in time. So our credit cards were pretty much maxed out. Despite that, we found enough room to go ahead and travel to Baltimore to attend the first Remodeler show. And that was a complete game changer for us. It was an opportunity to find some mentors, and it was an opportunity to meet other folks who were generous with their time and generous with their knowledge, to sort of point us in the right direction and show us that there was a way that we could actually create a successful business, have a high quality of life, not let our business run our life, and things just sort of took off from there. And we have been sort of on a steady growth path ever since, for me as a business leader as well, and now sort of take more time to try to pay it forward and help folks that need it, just like I was lucky to find people who were willing to help me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this remodeler show it's Remodeler's Advantage. Was that the?
No, so it was initially started by Remodeling Magazine, and it went on for years. Remodeling
Okay.
Magazine done it, just like many magazines today have sort of conferences, right? But this was a big show, so it was the remodeling version of like the Builder show that happens in Vegas.
Gotcha.
And it was a trade floor like you'd expect, and then really good educational seminars. And it was one of those things where we were so jazzed. If we weren't in a class or talking to the speaker after class, we were back in our hotel working on a business plan, or like we weren't sleeping. It was just like we were on fire, and we're like, we can make this thing happen. And it was it was a really exciting time.
Yeah, it's those shows are a great opportunity to network, find mentors, learn business skills. Definitely, we see a very nice trajectory of the people who typically go and invest in themselves and take that time to do some professional development. So kudos to you for finding that.
Yeah, we were lucky, and I was one of those guys too that was like, the guy who would sit in the front row of the seminar, and when the speaker would say, "You guys got to mark up 50% minimum just to get by," I'd be one of those guys. Hey, you don't know what it's like in my market. You can't get away with that. It took a little while for it to sink through, and for folks that are struggling like that and wondering why they're not making money, you got to set that stuff aside and just listen to people who have more experience.
Yeah. So kind of rewinding though, back to those early days, sounds like you learned some lessons the hard way. I mean, how did you kind of go into your next company? How did you set it up differently?
Sure.
Did you have a partner? I mean, what was kind of the structure of Blackdog?
So great question. And I think in the beginning, I didn't have a good foundation, despite the fact that I had a business degree. It truly didn't prepare me at all for running a small business. And I had a partner the first time, I think mostly because I was insecure about my abilities to do the work and to understand some of the more business related, like the finance related functions or whatever. And when we started it back up, we started a new company. I had decided, okay, you know what, I need to become proficient at these things, and I need to learn these things regardless, and not defer to somebody else. And maybe I'm not going to be the quintessential expert in every aspect of that, but I need to have a functioning knowledge so I can at least in the beginning understand what's going on.
Sure.
And so that's where I then sort of sought out those mentors and sought out those leaders, and joined professional associations like Remodelers Advantage, and that was just like, it was like an accelerator. Being able to put your foot on the gas and associate with other folks who are intelligent and focused and driven, and it also elevates the level of the conversation, right? So you begin, thinking about things from a different perspective, and you begin seeing what's possible. There was a time when I said to myself, if we could just do $1 million of volume, and if I could make 100 grand, I would be set, right? Like that was my level of thinking as I was trying to fire this thing back up, and because that's as far as I could see, right?
Yeah.
And hanging out with folks who were focused and driven and smart, and constantly seeking education. Like there's not a time, even today, and this is true back then, when I wasn't in my truck listening to audio tapes. Back then, I'm dating myself, right? I'm an older guy. That now I'm just listening to Audible, but back then, you'd buy cassette packs
Yeah.
from these speakers, and I was like a sponge, and whatever I could learn, and still am, frankly. I love it. I love trying to learn the next thing.
Yeah. So you said earlier, I guess before we're talking, I mean, this year you're going to do around 16 million. Is that right?
Yeah, so we'll be doing 16 million. We got 65 team members. We're very blessed to have a great crew of folks who believe in the mission, and work real hard to deliver a great experience to our clients.
I mean, that's incredible. So what's kind of the leadership team look like? I mean, is it,
Mm.
you got people that are, kind of focused on, sales, marketing,
Yep.
operations,
Yep. Great
back office
question.
accounting.
Yeah, so we have a CFO. So in the last 5 years, our business has really kind of evolved and taken it to the next level. And we brought some folks in from the outside. A lot of we have numbers of folks who've been with us for 25, 30 years. My senior employee is been with us 30 years, and
Wow.
yeah, and then step down from that is 28 years, right? So we have a lot of longevity in our team, which we're very fortunate to have. But then recently, we brought some folks in, executives who've had experience from outside the industry. So our CFO is a 22-year CPA, who was tired of the CPA game and wanted to be engaged in small business. He's really leveled up the finance side of our business, and taught the overall team, including me, better ways to look at our financials, provided better insights. We have a sales manager who's also from outside the industry, who's helping our sales team move forward and help us meet goals and set goals and be more accurate about that. We've got a production manager who runs all of production for us, and then he has project managers that report to him. And then we have an HR manager, who, where we are at 65 people. That's part of the growing pains, is trying to figure out. There's a lot of times when you have employees as you're growing that wear multiple hats, or
Yeah.
you as the owner wear multiple hats, right? And to the extent that as the owner you can begin taking those hats off sooner, your company can begin to evolve and do better. And the same thing is true of the employees, right? So when you saddle an employee with too many hats, they're not going to necessarily be able to thrive. And so HR for us, HR and recruiting was sort of a side task for other people. But
Yeah.
man, today it's a full-time gig, and it needs to be a full-time gig to be able to find the people that we are looking for. It's a hard market. It continues to be a hard market for most companies to find qualified people.
Sure. And so do you use any subcontractors, or all of your workers like employees?
No, so we do self-perform a bunch of work. So we have carpenters in-house that are W-2 employees, but then we subcontract all the typical trades, like electrical, plumbing, drywall, heating, the things that either we're not licensed to perform or we're not fit. Like you can't. Can some of our guys hang drywall and finish drywall? Sure. Can they do it cost effectively? No. Right. And same thing with insulation. You probably know that you can bring an insulation company in to insulate your project for less money than you could go to a lumberyard and buy the insulation for. Right.
Yep.
So there are those economy of scales that we always take advantage of. But yeah, on the carpentry side, we self-perform the bulk of that work.
Gotcha. So what would you say like has been, I mean, having employees that have been there for, 30, years. I mean, that's pretty incredible. I mean, you must have a really great culture. What would you, is there anything in particular that you could attribute to, being a place that people want to stick with you for so long? And, how have you kept those guys?
Well, so yeah, thanks for asking that. So I think a bunch of it is just the perspective of leadership, right? So my job at where we are volume wise and activity wise, my job is not to do things. And well, I'm not a doer, I'm a leader, right? And
Yep.
and that's a transition, right? But there was a time, there might have been a time when you were coding, right? I doubt you're coding today, right?
Still
So
write some code.
okay, fair enough, fair enough. But then there's a question that says, should you, right? Is
Yeah.
that where your job is? And that's the question that for me as a leader, ask myself. There are plenty of things I can allow myself to be distracted to do, but is that my highest and best use to make the
Yep.
company better today, right? Because I get out of bed and I think, what is the one thing if I make better today will benefit the company down the road, right? And if I can make those small improvements every day, it's essentially the thing that makes a big difference. So to answer your question about the people, um, uh, realizing that in the end, our people are sort of everything to us, right? So we build projects, and at the end of the day, that's like a product, right? The client gets a product. So it's a kitchen, it's a room addition, it's a bathroom, whatever it is, they get that product. But the experience they go through to get that product is what makes or breaks the whole deal. So even if we killed it on how we built the project and everything was perfect, if the clients had a horrible experience, we lost, right? We might have made money or whatever, we might have got paid, but if they had a bad experience, they're not going to refer us, they're not going to help us build our reputation, help us, perpetuate our growth. And the only way you get that experience for clients is by having great people. And the only way you have and keep great people is by appreciating them and letting, and it's not even about, bigger benefits and necessarily more money, although obviously those things are important. It's about sort of the simple side of respecting somebody and letting them know you appreciate them, right?
Yep.
And not being afraid to say, man, you killed it. Thank you so much on that thing, right? Or not thinking like I know leaders and business owners that feel like if they compliment their employees too much, they're going to ask for more money, right? Okay, I don't. That's not been my experience, right? Um, but I'll tell you what: if you don't compliment them, the odds are pretty good they're not going to be happy and they're not going to stay, right? People
Yeah.
don't, people don't quit companies; they quit people, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can be that better person for your team, they're gonna want to stay.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And so, at what point do you feel like did you kind of, you talked about kind of this realization that focusing on HR and recruiting was so important. I mean, at what point, how did you make that decision to put someone in place full time to
Mm.
focus on that?
Yeah, so great question. And the answer is, like in most cases, no, we didn't do it soon enough, right? Everything these brilliant ideas, and some of that is sort of being concerned about overhead and trying to be lean and trying. You would think, okay, 65 people, that's not lean, but we are constantly thinking about, do we need to invest in this position or in this product or in this software? Um, and we should have done it sooner, right? The person who does HR and recruiting for us now was our finance manager before, and that by itself was a big full-time job,
Yeah.
much less sharing time. And honestly, candidly, this is my first $16 million company. It's not like this is so 6 months after college, this is what I've done. And I've not done anything else. And so I don't have the benefit of having watched the trajectory of 5 companies from the inside grow.
Sure.
But I'll tell you that the staffing component in the last 5 years has become more and more challenging, and that by itself merits a full-time person. And then the HR side of it, going back to keeping people and creating that culture. She is a big piece of helping to create that culture and just do those little appreciation things or things that you think as an owner we're busy and don't make the time for, whether that's just a friendly newsletter or whether that's recognizing people on their birthday or their anniversary with the company or whatever. That takes time. I'm not awesome at that naturally, right? So to have somebody who steps up and makes sure that that happens
Yeah.
makes a difference, makes people feel valued.
Yeah. 100%. So earlier you kind of talked to me about, that you've got multiple divisions,
Mm.
handyman, flooring, obviously the design build is your primary, but like tell us a little bit about these other, these other divisions that you've got and how did that come about?
Sure, sure. So we have a company called Total Basement Finishing, and that is it's like a dealership, and that's from a company in Connecticut, and that is a panelized basement finishing system. So we go in and renovate basements, and I know in Texas you guys don't have a lot of basements, so
No.
you're not our market, right? But we renovate basements with this system where we put all inorganic material into basements. So even in the event of a flood, you're not ripping your basement out. You're just drying it out and you're back in business, right? So that business represents a little more than $3 million of our revenue. And so we have a team that goes on the road, sells projects. They actually have software where they can go in, they can design for a client and price the project and provide a contract in one sitting. So it's a really clean, sort of efficient sales process. And then that business, we do produce that business with subcontractors.
Okay.
And so we don't use our carpenters for that. So great business model, very cool little business. We also then have a handyman division. We call it home services for our smaller projects. They also provide warranty work. So we provide a 3-year warranty on all the work that we do. And so having a small service business in-house makes us responsive on the warranty side. So we're not asking clients to wait when they have a problem or a glitch. We get out there and take care of it. Then a few years back, we started a flooring company. So I bought a new facility. We actually have 2 locations, one in Salem, New Hampshire, one in Nashua, New Hampshire. And I bought this great facility and converted it to what we call the Nashua Home Design Center. And it has 6 home-related companies in it. So it's got a kitchen and bath showroom, a flooring showroom, a custom closet showroom, a plumbing fixture facility showroom, and then a window treatment showroom, and one of our remodeling companies in there, right? So clients can come in, and it's not perfectly a one-stop shop, but they can accomplish a lot of their goals when they're doing a project in their home, all in one facility, right?
Sure.
And so that's been really exciting and fun. And we started that just about when the pandemic took hold. So that was a little more exciting than I was really looking for. But now that that's behind us, things are moving in a great direction.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, I mean, are these all kind of separate companies, or do you kind of view them as divisions, or kind of what's the the back office look like for all that?
Yep, no, great question. So we have one corporation, and then these all are independent P&Ls. And our CFO has done a really good job at allocating the internal costs to each business, so
Okay.
we can get a sense of how each business is performing financially, right? So we can immediately see if there's one that's weak or lagging, and why, and what's going on. Otherwise, you really struggle to kind of figure out what the performance is, because as a company, there's one bottom line, but
Sure.
per business unit, we can really understand how they're performing and where we need to make tweaks and changes and stuff.
Yeah. So do the majority of your employees kind of just focus on one, business or the other, and they're not kind of crossed over?
So we have a design build company in Nashua and a design build company in Salem. Those companies are actually independently staffed. So we have our own design team and our own production team in each location,
Yep.
but they certainly do have crossover, right? And if one carpenter is looking for a home on a given day, and we don't, we'll swap them over, and we do our field training together. We do our sales training together. So it's not, there's a bunch of overlap there,
Sure.
but in the end, leads that come into the company get serviced based on geography, and then consequently the work we build gets serviced based on geography.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit? So what kind of training do you provide for everyone? What does that look like?
Yeah, so on the field side, our field team gets together once a month in the morning, and we have an agenda for each one of those meetings. We always have a safety component to it, and then we have usually something's business related to help. We are a pretty open book company, so our people understand our numbers and how we're performing financially. We give them updates on a regular basis. If we hit a profit threshold, there's a profit share that'll happen at the end of the year, or depending on how it goes quarterly. And we're really close to that threshold. I'm hoping that we're going to make that happen this year. So we keep people updated about what's going on and how that works. and try to give our lead carpenters tips on how to produce a project better, how to be a better manager, how to be more effective with our subcontractors and our trades. We'll also do things like practical to us. So one of our carpenters, maybe who's really good at crown molding, we'll mock up a crown molding example, and we'll take some of the guys through. And sometimes we're trying to bring up the younger people and help them up their skill level. That's
Yeah.
another example. So we have that kind of training for the field. On the sales side, our sales manager runs bi-weekly meetings where we're sort of trying to provide, again, new information. Our sales team designs, estimates, and sells their projects. So there's a bunch of skill sets in there. So we might have a meeting where we're focusing on how to estimate better, or we might, one of our designers might present one of the projects that they just finished and walk the team through what the
Yeah.
client needed and how they solved the problem, and all that kind of stuff, right? So, and then our project managers also do some trainings that they just did. Are you familiar with the book Patrick Lencioni's Six Steps of Genius, Working Genius?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
So our project managers all read that book, and then they took the test, and now they're sort of kind of understanding their skill sets and helping all of them get a sort of better language for working together, because they understand now their strengths and weaknesses and how they can complement each other. So we do that sort of stuff too.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. And so it sounds like you're not always sometimes people want to just like hire the most experienced, grade A, top of the line people. Sounds like you also get some people who you see potential with, and then you can train them, kind of up into, being a more senior, experienced person. Is that right?
Well, so it's interesting you say that. So yeah, so I guess one of the things I didn't mention is we are a very process-driven company. Like there is a system and a procedure for everything we do, and most of that, quite candidly, is from screw-ups, right? Something we screwed something up, it hurt, and we said let's not let that happen again. So we figured out a way to fix it. However, the other part of that is, think about it statistically, right? We all like to think that we hire just the best people,
Mm-hmm.
but what percentage of people are rock stars?
Yeah.
Maybe 10% of the population are rock stars. What are the odds that you or I are going to hire exclusively the top 10%? Not good,
Very high.
right? So consequently, in my mind, you need to build a company with good systems and good procedures to allow an average person who's well intended to come into your company and excel, right? If you rely on nothing but geniuses to be able to come in and do the job sort of untrained and unprotected by systems and procedures, you're going to have a lot of heartburn, right? Or you're going to have a lot of geniuses who think they're smarter than you are and don't want to stay, right? So again, I think systems, process, it's all about that. And we tell clients that we never, as a remodeling contractor, it's not like we build subdivisions and we get to do 3 models 10 times. Every single project we do is unique. However, the way we build every project is identical. Right? We don't have to figure that out.
Yeah. Earlier, you were talking about, financial transparency and just kind of, it's a way that you can engage and kind of, get everybody on the same page. You've got, sounds like, bonuses and compensation directly tied to the company performance. I mean, hands down, I think that's awesome. That's great. I do, I'd like to learn a little bit more about your thinking there, because I'm constantly coming across people who, they're worried about sharing, so much transparency with the team. I mean, even, I've heard, and we've got customers using JobTread are wondering, well, should I sell, share my cost and my price? And, if my project managers, see the profit, are they gonna want to come and ask for more? And like, there's just always a little bit of, kind of hesitation around that, kind of share kind of your thinking along those lines.
Yeah. So my thinking is, I don't want this company to be all on my shoulders, right? I am very blessed that I get to take a chunk of time off, and over the course of time, I take more time off as we go and make a great living and have, and I want my people to make a great living as well, right? If that had to all be on me, and I was like trying to be like this madman, like sitting on a pile of gold and not wanting to share any of that, that's a pretty short-term perspective and probably a good recipe for a heart attack, right? Instead, I'd much rather bring people in, educate them on what it actually takes to run a company, what overhead looks like. Like we actually do a training with our team about what happens to a dollar when it comes into the company. And it's eye-opening for them when they understand when a dollar comes into the company, what percentage of it goes out to direct job costs, what percentage of it goes to overhead, what percentage of it goes to commission, what percentage and what you end up with net profit before tax, right? And when they're all done, it's not uncommon for employees to be like, "Oh, wait a minute, what,
Hmm.
that's all we have left," you know?
Yep.
And so if you do a good job educating people, instead of being fearful of whether or not they're going to ask for more, now they're pulling in the same direction, especially if you have an incentive, right? So for most contractors, especially those that self-perform work, the biggest area you risk profit is in labor, right? You can get a committed price for your sub, you can do a good takeoff of your materials, but labor is the guess, right? And even if it's an educated guess, it's a guess. If, however, you put an incentive in place and you say to your lead carpenter, I tell you what, on this project we're about to launch, it's got a $10,000 labor budget.
Yeah.
If you beat that budget, I'll split the savings with you.
Hmm.
I'll tell you from experience, they beat the budget more often than they don't,
Yeah.
right? And so what do I care if they bring the project in at $8,000 and they get $1,000 out of it, and the company made $1,000 more than it would have anyone on top of that?
Yeah.
Isn't that a win?
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I got somebody in the field who's actually thinking more carefully, thinking strategically, and looking for opportunities to be more efficient, which in the end makes the client happier, makes the project go quicker, creates more room in our schedule to do another project. So there's like this multiplicative effect of how it
Yeah.
can be better, right?
Yeah.
So, I would much rather not be the smartest guy in the room. I'd rather have folks come on board, help them understand how we do business, and then have them help us do better because they're invested.
Yeah. No, that's couldn't have said it better myself. I know when I was running the construction company, I ended up putting both the sales and the project managers, their essentially their commission was based on the gross profit of the
Right.
job. And so I found that really helped to align, both of them and the business as a whole, to basically let's focus on the GP and make sure that we're hitting our profit goal. Otherwise, nothing else matters here. If we're
Right.
not going to make money, then what are we doing this for? And, I see a
Right.
lot of people, where they want to compensate solely based on, top level sales. And it's like, well, I could go sell something for, any amount of money. And if we don't make any profit, it doesn't really matter. And so, I think that it's good. And I love your approach to, having very specific, incentives that can be offered to help motivate, on an individual job. And, at the end of the day, it sounds like a great way for, both the company and the employee to win.
Yeah, no, I think it's been effective, and I think it's funny. There are these things that I refer to as vanity metrics, and vanity metrics like top line revenue, right? And or volume, right? And I think volume is vanity. You see guys kind of pound their chest and be like, "I'm doing $5 million, or I'm
Yeah.
doing 3 million." Well, I don't really care about that. What are you taking home, and what's the business producing to the bottom line? And if those aren't numbers that are respectable, then that 3 million or $5 million, you know, you can't pay the mortgage with that,
Yeah.
right? And you can't help your team with that. There's got to be money behind there, and that all starts, I think, from educating. And there's over the course of time for us, our people have helped build our systems and develop our processes and make them better than I could by myself
Yeah.
because they feel like they're invested.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what do you, if you wanted to, I mean, like you guys implemented JobTread back in, I think, something in end of 2022, what did that look like? So when you want to introduce, a new tool or, a new process, like, how do you actually roll that out with your team?
Well, so interesting question because the truth is we're not. So I purchased a license, and come January we're going full tilt, and that's then a bunch of licenses. So I'm actually hiring a buddy of mine who does software implementation for a living to help us with that process because this is a big deal. We have been using the same platform for our CRM, estimating, contract writing, scheduling for 20 years. Right? It's a
Hmm.
dinosaur, and uh, and I've been waiting to find the program that checked as many boxes. And there is no program on the planet that checks every box, right?
Yeah.
And at first of all, I had to come to that conclusion and sort of live with that little bit of heartbreak there. And then, once I did the searching, find the right one. Now my guess is what we're gonna end up doing is breaking it down into sections within the company and ramp up sales first and then ramp up production. I'm not sure what the order is going to be. We're going to still
Sure.
work that through. But starting in January, we're hitting that hard. And candidly, the reality is I know it's going to be a little painful, right? I know we're going to take away people's security blanket that they're comfortable with, they can use in their sleep, that they know,
Yep.
and even though we're going to give them a new and a better tool, there's going to be some heartburn there, right?
Sure.
That's just human nature. Um, and my daughter, my oldest kid, my daughter's coming back. She's actually started the company on Monday. It was her first day back, first day at work.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, it's really cool. I'm really excited to have one of our kids come back, and that actually feels really really awesome that she felt like, and it was her idea. I was not like, I'm not about trying to pull the kids back into the company,
Yep.
and she's going to be the person that is sort of overseeing the implementation process. So I'm super excited about that, and the things that JobTread is going to do for us, um, beyond where we are right now, because we're candidly, even though I think we're smoothly running, well organized, the truth of the matter is we still use 3-ring binders, right? Every project's got a 3-ring binder on it, and our salespeople build those binders, and the binders are really good, right? Like if the salesperson got hit by a bus, that project could still get built, right?
Sure.
And without questions. But I now envision that's going to be gone, and a tablet's going to be in the field, or a laptop's going to be in the field, and everything we need to build a project is
Yep.
going to be in JobTread, going to be resident there, and and our clients will be happy. There's just so many little things that'll occur on a more fluid and consistent basis, that I think it'll level up our game a lot.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm curious what, kind of thinking back, like what do you think have been like the most challenging times, building this business, and how did you
Yeah.
overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so great question. You probably, you're meaningfully younger than I am, but I was in business during the 08, 09 kind of financial crisis, and it was brutal. But thankfully, I actually still have the same team with me. And so, when the pandemic came along, we were like, yeah, whatever, we'll
Mhm.
work it out, because we knew we could work it out, because at the financial crisis level, things got bad, and they got bad quickly, and there became this sort of, this perspective among the public that was almost irrational. Even if they weren't struggling, they felt like they needed to cut back,
Yeah.
right? And I knew wealthy people who had no reason to be concerned about whether or not they did a project, and they would just say, "Yeah, we're going to hold off," only because like the media made them feel like that was right, right? So
Yeah.
our revenue dropped from 5.5 million to $3.5 million, and we had to go from 40 people to 20 people in a year, and we had to cut $1 million out of our overhead in a year. Um, and we did all that, and it was not fun, and it was really challenging, and it was grim. But because we had been good to our folks and we had been fair to them, I personally let each person go that had to be let go, and not one person gave me a difficult time about that. Everyone knew it wasn't my choice. Everyone knew we were working as hard as we could to keep
Yeah.
things afloat, and so we worked as a team. The other thing that we did was, as business was constricting, and I can actually put a lot of this on Remodelers Advantage in terms of how we survived, because I was facilitating for Remodelers Advantage at the time, so I had the benefit of seeing like 30 companies, multiple times a year, and they were all over the country. And when it started, it wasn't like a couple of companies had problems. When it started, everyone was in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So I could go back to my team and say, all right, guys, we got to circle the wagons here, because it's no joke. And so we put some trigger points into place, and we took the emotion out of it, because I watched a lot of other business owners make mistakes based on emotion. And I took we said, okay, when our revenue falls to this number, we do this. And when our gross profit falls to this number, we do this. And when our overhead, whatever. So we put these trigger points in, so that when it happened, we didn't talk about it again. We just did it. Right.
Yeah.
And it made what was a difficult time easier. And it was, I think, a really effective way for us to handle it. And we made promises among ourselves, like we're not going to try to talk ourselves out of this, right? When it's got to happen, it's got to happen, and we survived because of it.
That's awesome. Where are you going? I mean, what's the plan? I mean, 16 million in revenue is pretty incredible. It sounds like you're on a great, growth trajectory. What's the next, 5, 10 years look like for you? What do you eventually want to happen with the business?
Yeah, so I'm very excited about where we're going. I'm super excited about some of the folks that have come on board that are just bringing us to a better level. And frankly, my daughter coming on board is a succession plan, right? So I've always designed the company so that someday it could exist here without me, right? And I don't sell anything, I don't produce anything, and our clients don't really know who I am, right? And that's very over the course of time. That's by design.
Sure.
Um, and so, I'm really excited to be able to mentor my daughter and help her learn the business. We have sort of a 5-year plan to help her do that. And over the course of time, we're going to do, my wife and I'll be spending some less time in the business. We have a bunch of plans that include a lot of sailing, and we're looking forward to doing that. And in the process, growth is healthy, right? So I believe in continuing the growth of the company, but it is, for us, sort of slow, steady, manageable growth. There's no reason for us to go 35% or 50%. Like that's again vanity, right?
Yeah.
That's and I'd rather create a really solid structure that's consistent. And there we have a bunch of people who depend on us to pay their rent and their mortgage. That's not something I take lightly.
Yeah.
So being careful about planning is super important to us.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. And, I can attest to, the value of being able to work with, your family. So my dad is our CFO.
Oh,
And,
nice.
yeah, we, it's something that, I used to get asked all the time, what's it like working for your dad? And I was like, well, no, actually he's working for me, but it's kind of like the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time we're good. We're loving each other. 20% of the time we're, going for the jugular, but it's probably now more about 95-5, I would say. But it really does, like, I know it's not for everyone. But I do take a lot of value and appreciate the opportunity to be able to work with my dad, and it just it helps you to really think about and realize, like, this is your life, this is your career, this is your journey, and you got to enjoy the ride. And it's
100%.
I think part of the thing that also, just even with JobTread, like, we're in no rush to try to do anything other than just build an awesome company and enjoy the journey together, because it's you only get one life. So to the extent that I'm just really happy to hear that you and your daughter, and it sounds like your wife is involved a little bit too.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, you'll get a chance. We're coming to connect. My daughter and my CFO and I will be coming to connect. So you get a chance to meet her. You can ask her what the percentage is, 95-5, or I'm curious what her answer will be about. But it's new, and I think she's a smart kid, and we're going to figure it out together. So we're excited about that. But I also, by the way, I couldn't agree more about your comment, sort of about we get one shot at this, right?
Yeah.
And so I do a talk sometimes for contractors on this concept around do you on the quality of life, and it's so easy, especially for a small contractor, to have a completely out of balance life and work
Yeah.
80 hours a week and struggle and suffer and not see their family and not make the money. And it doesn't have to be like that, right? And getting your head right around what's important. And like you said, all we have is the journey, right? Always got the journey. And if you don't figure out a way to enjoy the journey, you should be working for somebody else and doing something else.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, David, this has been really insightful. I appreciate you taking the time to share your story and your journey. I'm just kind of in conclusion here. I mean, what would you say, what do you wish you knew, starting off, or, kind of what, any final advice that, that you would give to other builders who are, much earlier on in their journey, aspiring to reach that, same level of success that you've had? What would you say to them?
So I guess I would say that if I had it to think over again, I spent a lot of time and a lot of energy worrying about whether I would become successful, worrying about whether I would realize the goals. And that was a lot of wasted time and energy thinking about, stressing about where we're going. And the truth of the matter is, it feels to me like if living in this country, if you have a little bit of common sense and you're willing to work hard and put your head down and do the right thing and run a business ethically and behave ethically and honorably, you're the odds are incredibly high that you're going to succeed, right? Don't take the shortcut. Don't screw people. Be good, be kind, work hard, be smart. Life is good, right? I don't know that there's that many other places in the world where you can take that formula and transplant it and still have the same success you can have in this country. But for me, if I had to do it over again, I would have stressed less when I was younger.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great advice. And, hopefully everyone will take that to the bank with them. Cause, I 100% agree. I, try to live, life as stress free as possible. And it's like, obviously you're going to have challenges, but my approach is, look, just, try to have a cool head, think about it, break it down into pieces, what action steps can be taken, make a list, just start at the top, focus on one little thing at a time. And, you can always work your way out of it. And, it's so hard when you see, some entrepreneurs, just let that, kind of anxiety and that stress and those overwhelming feelings that we all get, but it's all about how do you process it and then say, okay, I recognize I'm feeling that way, but, can't let this, ruin my day. Got it. Let's set that aside and, get back to it. And, I think it probably takes a lot of time and experience to realize, exactly, to recognize those feelings and know that, okay, these, I see them creeping in, they're not going to add any value here. They're not going to help. Let's 100%. Put them back out and yeah.
But that's like, so you're 100% right. But that's where it is like, okay, if there shouldn't be time when you're in your truck, when you're not listening to a podcast or listening to a recording, something that moves you forward mentally, something that raises the bar and raises your game. And some of it is like, all right, how do you deal with that stress? How do you deal with the stress so that when you walk in the door, you're the best husband, the best father that you can be? Not the best of everything, but just the best that you can be, because you were able to leave work at work and not drag it in the door like it's a dead body that's been attached to you, right? That's no good, right? So anyway, good stuff. Pleasure talking to you, Eric.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on again, David, and look forward to meeting you in person at JobTread Connect in January. And I'm sure a lot of the audience there will probably have listened to this podcast as well. So it'd be great for you to be able to get to connect with everyone. But again, appreciate everything you're doing, David. Thanks for all your contributions and giving back to to others who are aspiring to build a great business. It's very impactful and makes a difference. So we appreciate you.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks very much, Eric. Enjoyed the time. Take care.
All right, see you. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.